Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, I'm going to have to remind myself to not dance. I was just dancing, I was singing, waiting to get started. The Minnesota drum line from their marching band is practicing right around the corner, where we initially thought, we can shoot the live shot out here. Oh, no, there's a drum line there. Well, okay, we'll shoot inside the stadium. Oh, they're rehearsing for the whole pregame show tomorrow. So now we're outside standing in front of the Minnesota football equipment truck, which says Minnesota football, has a nice picture of Goldie on it. But I've been dancing along with the drum line, and I've got to remind myself, okay, now we're on camera, and now I can't do that anymore.
Right, and I have to remember to bring the camera up, or the microphone up, and I have to remember what is a microphone, what is a camera. We have these microphones now. We have the addition of Kevin Noon with us, helping us out. You like these mics because it reminds you of karaoke. Mm-hmm. I would prefer the Price is Right microphone, like the skinny mic.
We could get the Todd Graham / Britney Spears mic. Maybe look into those.
Mm-hmm. That would be good. So here we are. We are in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, or this is technically St. Paul because we had to cross the river. Is that correct?
Maybe. I don't know.
But we're here.
we are wherever we are.
And we've got a game here tomorrow. We thought we would, as we normally do, we go to a venue, we preview the game, we talk to you guys, get some questions from you throughout the show. Right now, I think we should just talk about the game, what we're expecting to see. We threw some bold predictions. Some of us threw some bold predictions down. Others threw some regular predictions down on the last podcast. You can check that out. But out of all of this, Tom, what are you looking forward to finding out most? Not looking forward to seeing, what you're excited about. What don't you know that you want to know?
I think I'm most interested to see where is TreVeyon Henderson in the running back pecking order. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I'm real interested in the linebackers and who's going to be starting at linebacker and what's the rotation like there. But I think I'm most interested to see, it's going to be some combination of Master Teague and Mayan Williams and TreVeyon Henderson. And all three of them are probably going to get, 5-10 carries at least. But where does TreVeyon Henderson fall in that pecking order? Does TreVeyon Henderson get 6 carries or does he get 16 carries? Does he get 30 yards with those carries or does he get 130 yards with those carries? I think that of all the stuff, he's the thing I'm most excited to see tomorrow because we've heard enough about him from all sorts of different people. We've seen glimpses of it when we've gotten to watch a little bit of practice. I'm just really interested to see what does this look like on the field against a Big Ten defense.
That's probably the number one answer for everybody because you have hyped him up so much. I've been telling people, relax, calm down. But you have been like, no calm, just go for it. Me, I think so much of the season hinges on C.J. Stroud. Let's see where he is. Is he a combination of, is he somewhere in between Dwayne Haskins and Justin Fields? Or is he somewhere between Dwayne Haskins and J.T. Barrett? Where is he in this line? And is he not up to J.T. Barrett standards yet? I would be a little bit surprised if that's the case. Even if it's raining, I would still expect 65% completions or something like that. But I'm looking forward to seeing him. He's going to be the guy. So much of Ohio State's success is going to be tied to him. So I need to know, is he as good as everybody says? And I think the answer for both of these is going to be in the affirmative. If there's an area that may be answered in the negative or the negatory, what do you think? It has to be somewhere in the defense, right?
Yeah, I do like the fact that your question was how good is C.J. Stroud, and the answer was affirmative, meaning yes. So how good is C.J. Stroud? Yes. I think we can all agree. I think we can all agree that's going to be what the answer is tomorrow night.
Yes, he will be C.J. Stroud.
Defensively, yeah, I'm interested to see. I feel like this is not a Minnesota team that's going to push Ohio State in the places I'm really interested in seeing Ohio State's defense get pushed. Just the wide receiver core isn't strong enough to really challenge the big question mark on the Ohio State defense, which is the corners. So, I guess I'd be most interested in seeing big offensive line. How does the Teron Vincent, Haskell Garrett interior of that defensive line, when they play them together at nose and 3 tech, how does that hold up against what's going to be a big face-smashing Minnesota offensive line and a very good running back in Mo Ibrahim? Because, where you would potentially have concerns about that later in the year is against a team like Wisconsin. and Minnesota is like Wisconsin minus for the most part. It's like the offensive line is the same big-bodied offensive line. It's a good, solid running game. If they can hold up against Minnesota, and those same guys are healthy at the end of the year, I think that gives you a pretty good indication they will probably hold up against Wisconsin in a theoretical Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, we might get an immediate look at how good the defensive line can be based on how they do against what is going to be a formidable running attack, a determined running attack. I wonder if they get a little, can Minnesota afford to get cute on offense, where you do the John Cooper thing and, well, they're expecting that, so we're going to do the other. And with Minnesota's passing game, they've got a good quarterback, Tanner Morgan. I still have some concern. Is he the product of his 2019 receivers and Rashad Bateman last year, as opposed to not having those guys anymore, having some young guys, having Chris Outman-Bell, who is day-to-day, is which Tanner Morgan are we going to see? And if they've seen all camp that it's the Tanner Morgan from 2019, maybe we see a little bit more balance from Minnesota. And I know they want to be balanced, but it's up to the defense, Ohio State defense, to allow it, because if they shut down the running game, there's going to be no balance, and then they're just going to come after Tanner Morgan, and it's going to make things terrible. So I want to find out. I'm interested to see, do they establish that run, or do they try to soften up the run defense by throwing it? But if Ohio State comes out in a 4-2-5, they're built to stop the pass, so there wouldn't need to be any soften. They would still be ready for the pass or the run, which is, I think, part of the excitement around Craig Young and the bullet and just what Ohio State's going to do on defense.
Well, I guess the big question is Minnesota going to be able to run the ball against Ohio State, whether it is a 4-3 or a 4-2-5? And I don't think they're going to be able to put up, I mean, go back over the last couple of years. How many teams have really run the ball? I mean, put up more than 250 yards against Ohio State in a single game. Go back to like 2018. Do you know the answer? I looked it up, because we're going to do a segment on this for...
I'll say one time, and it would be it would involve Ty Johnson and some Damon Arnett, maybe losing containment. Sorry, I'm talking into the mic. I'm going to say Maryland, 2018.
You are correct, sir. You are correct. That's the only time that someone went over 300 yards against this Ohio State defense in the run game since 2018. The year before that, Army did it, but Army took 58 carries or something like that to do it. Navy did it in 2014. They took 63 carries to do it. The other time it happened, though, outside of those, Maryland did it in 2015 in a game they lost by 1 trillion points, so it didn't really matter. The other time it happened, though, Iowa in 2017. So it's very hard to run the ball consistently enough against Ohio State to be able to pile up numbers like that. And, I'm giving you the top line numbers because I didn't have time to do the deep dive on the yards per carry. But those are kind of the top line numbers. It's very hard to be able to run the ball against Ohio State consistently enough and well enough to get to those numbers. If you can, that's how you pull the how the heck did Ohio State lose this game. Like that's how that happens. But it's real hard to do, and I don't know that, even with Minnesota having a good offensive line, good running back, this is a better Ohio State defensive line than you've seen over a lot of the past decade. So I don't know if they're going to be able to get that push, open up those lanes. Maybe the linebackers are not ready. Maybe the linebackers have bad run fits and you get hit some of those. But you've got to give up big plays to get to those numbers. So if your linebackers are playing, under control, have good run fits, you get that good deep safety play from Josh Proctor, who's another person who we probably should talk about because that's a real interesting spot. I don't know that Minnesota can win the game just running the ball. They're going to have to throw it.
Yeah, and it's not just up to the front four to stop the run, as you said. It's going to be interesting to see how that 4-2-5 does, how it's a nickel defense. So if it's a nickel defense stopping a Minnesota run, and if Josh Proctor is there to make sure that nobody is busting anything long, and you got the bullet doing its thing, I think this is what the defense has had to be. It's been trending this way. They're finally doing it, finally going to unveil it, except it's going to be against a running team. So we'll wait to see how it really does against a passing team, perhaps next week. If you guys have any questions about the game, go ahead and let us know. Oh, what do we got?
Producer Kevin will be off camera relaying questions to us. I'll repeat them for you.
Jackoff 22 asks, does Kirk pay you a
Does Kirk pay us a bonus if we get 75% of our predictions correct? I don't know. We'll let you know if that ever happens.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect that because I expect to be 100%. So why would I get a bonus for something I'm supposed to do and I plan on doing? Tom, you should ask for a 40% bonus.
See,
because that's about where you're going to be.
It's historically about where you've been, so that's a good baseline for me.
Ryan Vonderhaar says, interested to see a run-heavy first drive with Stroud making a few confidence booster throws. Then Coach Day opens up the playbook. Think is out of hand by halftime.
Yeah, Ryan thinks they open it up. And by the way, Ryan, good to see you at the premiere of our documentary on Monday. He thinks Ohio State's going to run it early and then use that to set up C.J. Stroud, and he thinks it's out of hand by halftime.
I've been wondering the same. I said I expect Ohio State to open in 2 tight ends to run the ball. If you polled the average Ohio State fan or beat reporter or whomever and said, do you expect Ohio State to come out and run the ball and establish it and be safe with C.J. Stroud? I think the majority would say yes. But is that, again, now going to be Ryan Day saying, no, I don't need to be safe. I've got a quarterback I'm confident in, so we're going to attack a Minnesota defense that is suspect in the secondary. Coney Durr, cornerback, pretty good, but they feel like they're going to be able to protect the passer. So they should be able to take some shots downfield. If it's raining, that's going to make things more difficult for the defensive backs. So that will be a sign of Ryan Day having a ton of confidence in C.J. Stroud if they come out throwing the ball, but also if they come out running the ball. Don't take that as a sign they have no confidence in C.J. Stroud.
And you mentioned Coney Durr there. He's a very good corner. There's a decent possibility he has, whoever he's on is not open very often. The problem is Ohio State has more than one wide receiver. That's where a lot of Big Ten teams are going to run into issues. Even with one good corner this year, you're going to run into some issues where it's like, well, if you've got Chris Olave locked down, okay, well then Garrett Wilson's on the other side and Jackson Smith and Jigba's in the slot, and you can't stop them all. And Jeremy Ruckert obviously headed for at least a 5-reception night on Thursday, so you got to cover him some way. You mentioned the weather, so let's touch on the weather because everyone's worried about the weather. The forecast right now is like 71 degrees at game time, like a 20% chance of rain, and like 10-mile-an-hour winds, and it's essentially that all night. It goes down into like the low to mid 60s by the end of the game, but it's like even at the end of the game, it's like a 30-ish, 40-ish% chance of rain. It's going to rain, but it's going to rain at like midnight unless the storm comes in faster. It's not. It's just you're not. This is not going to be a consistently rainy game unless the forecast changes. So I don't know that weather is as much of a concern as people are making it out to be.
There's a photographer's old wives' tale. Did you prepare for rain with your equipment?
I have a waterproof backpack, and I will have cover, some kind of a cover for my camera just to keep it safe and dry. So
basically, it's one of those things that if you prepare for it, it's less likely to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like insurance.
Yeah.
Anything? Okay, go ahead, Kevin. What do you got?
My pool's chasing me says, does anyone expect the offense to start slow? Because I do. First 2 drives, most likely no score. Just saying.
So will the offense start slowly? First couple drives, no score. That's what my pool is chasing me is expecting. Sure, maybe that's a possibility.
Would that be a surprise? No, it's the first game of the season. I mean, that could happen in Game 4, Game 8, and no, it wouldn't surprise me at all. You've had many months to prepare for these, to practice these 15 plays, to get this script down. So you'd like for one of those 2 drives to yield something. Certainly not 2 field goals, but something. And you've geared your offense and these plays to your players, and they've practiced them, they're prepared for them, so you would like them to work. If they don't score in the first 2 drives, if they go to the first quarter without a point, I think they did that. They've done that in the past, opening up. But it would be, it's a little bit of a letdown. I'm sure a lot of people will be saying it's a letdown. Probably as let down as Nebraska fans are after that Illinois game.
I think it's worth discussing the fact that that's possible that can happen, and then everything goes fine after that. Mm-hmm. Because there's a bunch of different. You can get a bunch of the little stuff in the first couple drives where this is the first time fans will have been in this building in close to 2 years. It's probably going to be pretty loud, especially at the start of the game. you get a false start on a 3rd and 2, and all of a sudden it's a 3rd and 7, and you got a first-time starting quarterback. He's a little amped up, airmails a throw, and then, even if a guy's open, you airmail a throw, and then it's 4th down. And a bunch of little stuff like that can happen and derail a drive. I don't know that's, that doesn't necessarily make it something that you should necessarily be concerned about. If it takes, if people are missing wide open guys, that's not something you can rely on. If you're Minnesota all night long happening, you're not going to be able to rely on someone false starting because of crowd noise. I mean, it's just, that's not necessarily something, it's not something that would surprise me at all, but it's also not something that would concern me if I was an Ohio State fan.
We got another one, Kevin?
Yeah. Sage Ohio asks, do you think they'll run more play action early?
Sage Ohio wants to know, will they run more play action early?
I think so. I think that helps C.J. Stroud. I think especially if they're going to run 2 tight ends, as I said they would, then that leads into the play action where you get some Jeremy Ruckert, who I think will have no more than 4 catches. You got to limit him right there at 4 catches. You don't want him getting that 5 number. It's not healthy. It's overworking him. But I think some play action. And anytime you've got Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, and a deep post route, it just seems like you throw a little play action. You have a safety bite. You got some one-on-one, and that's easy pickings.
I expect Ohio State to be able to run the ball reasonably well. I'm not expecting 9 yards a carry all night, but they should be able to run the ball reasonably well. 6 yards a carry, is that outrageous? Yeah. I think that's 6.5 yards a carry. If you were running for 6.5 yards per carry, you would be an idiot not to take advantage of that by using play action. I mean, it just, all that does is make your quarterback's life easier. And you go back to some of the like Jim Bowman offenses where you'd have Joe Bauserman back there play faking to no one, and it's like, well, that doesn't do anything other than that was like a timing thing or whatever. But if you are able to run the ball, and that's something the defense has to respect, and you're able to stay kind of on schedule where it's 2nd and 6, 2nd and 4, where you could very easily run or pass, and they have to respect the run, that makes even if that just is a linebacker taking a false step up or a safety biting up or freezing just a second, that can be the difference between, hey, this guy got behind someone and it turns a 12-yard pass into a 40-yard gain. So yes, I expect to see a decent amount of play action just based on the fact that they're going to be able to run the ball enough to make that happen.
Have you turned in your staff picks?
I did.
Kevin, did you?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. I'll be interested to get scores afterwards.
All right, go ahead.
Scott Johnson asks, what curveballs do you think Fleck will throw in? Can't imagine he's going to be predictable after a whole offseason to prepare.
So what curveballs is P.J. Fleck going to throw at Ohio State?
I don't know what you can do in terms of, you have to rely on your offense. You have to you got to hang your hat on something, as Ryan Day said. Curveballs can work. We saw it work with Rutgers, but you've got to commit to them. You've got to pull them all. Like, you can't be wishy-washy. You got to be all in. You've got to really believe in it. So maybe they take some of that from Rutgers, where maybe there's some throwbacks on special teams or fake punt, something like that. You try to get the crowd going with something like some sort of a gamble, but that can also be deflating. So I don't know. Maybe Tom. Maybe a lot of wildcat with an extra blocker. I don't know if that's really a twist or a wrinkle.
I think it's more, especially if Ohio State scores a couple touchdowns early, you're going to see him trying to steal possessions, whether that's an onside kick, whether that's a fake punt, whether that's just going for it on 4th and 3 when in a time when you might normally think, a coach might be more prone to a field goal attempt. Just try and steal a possession somewhere, because you're only going to be able to keep Ohio State out of the end zone so long. Minnesota is not going to keep Ohio State to 17 points on Thursday night. So, and I don't know if Minnesota is going to be able to score 40 points. I mean, I actually suspect that I know the answer to that, and the answer is no, they will not be able to score 40 points. So you're going to need to either give yourself some short fields to work with, steal some possessions from Ohio State where, you score a touchdown and then you onside kick it, and then you get 2 possessions in a row. Because if Ohio State's going up and down the field on you, onside kicking it doesn't necessarily, if you're not stopping them on an 85-yard drive, I don't know if it matters if you hand them a shorter field for the next drive and it's they only have to go 45 yards this time instead of 80. Like, well, if they're able to go 80 consistently, what difference does it make? It just means you're getting the ball back sooner.
I would agree, except it's so hard to recover onside kicks. So it's if there was a better chance, say 15% chance instead of a 5% chance, I think you do it because there's 30 yards difference between 40 and a 70 is nothing.
Well, the other thing is you're trying to recover an onside kick when you're down 7 points with 3 minutes left in the game, and the other team is looking for an onside kick is a little different than it's the first quarter. It's 7-3, and you're back thinking, okay, let's see if we can get a good return out of this, and you're not looking for it necessarily, and maybe that there's something you pick up. A lot of times you'll see teams pick something up on one of the, hey, the third guy from the end of the line is leaving a little early. We have a kick that goes right towards him. Dribble one straight, and you catch him off guard.
It's hard to get that tendency in the first game, though.
Yeah.
But Parker Fleming, the new Ohio State special teams coordinator, has said he wants to be more aggressive. So does that aggression lead to an opportunity to have an onside kick go against him?
Possibly. That's more of a discipline thing than an aggression thing, for sure. Yes, next question.
Stephen Cherry asks, will Demario McCall be a key contributor heading into his 10th year at Ohio State?
Stephen wants to know if Demario McCall will be a key contributor heading into his 10th year at Ohio State. I mean, he's going to be a more key contributor this year than he has been in any of the previous 9 years, so that's something.
Yeah, that's another thing I want to see. These corners, how many are going to play? And are they playing because they're still trying to figure out what they have? Or do they know what they have, so they want to play as many as possible? Because the talent level is kind of equal, so you play more guys. Or are they still trying to figure out who are our best three, who are our best four? Maybe they didn't find out entirely in camp, and they want to see how these guys react in the game. I think... yeah, he's going to play more defense than he played offense over the last few years. Maybe less special teams if Travion Henderson is the guy at kick return. And I think, maybe the most they've gotten out of him since his freshman year.
Yeah, I expect to see at least some of Demario McCall on defense tomorrow. I don't think he's one of the top two, but it's going to be very interesting to see. Does that corner rotation before you get to garbage time, does that corner rotation, is that 3 guys? Is that 4 guys? Is that 5 guys? Because none of those would really completely surprise me. Next question.
Gary K asks or says, I'm interested on how the back 7 will do. I hope Josh Proctor goes for the sure tackles instead of the big hit and be the Jordan Fuller type of high safety.
Yeah, how is the back 7 going to do, and can Josh Proctor be the Jordan Fuller type of deep safety where it's not necessarily spectacular, it's not necessarily Malik Hooker, but nothing gets past you? That seems like, of all of the possible, on the spectrum of safeties, that seems like that's probably the best possible outcome for Ohio State if that's what Josh Proctor is this year.
And that's what he's shooting to be. He said he's watching Jordan Fuller film. He says he's a combination of Malik Hooker and Jordan Fuller, and if he could be a combination at either end, I think they would take that right now, and that's the plan. And he's talked about wanting to improve at that decision point of try to make the big play, try to make the safe play. He says he has a better idea of when to do that, and that's going to involve also not getting sucked up into some play action, not biting on a pump fake, all that kind of stuff that requires discipline. Don't lose containment, don't lose leverage. And the coaches have said all the right things about Josh Proctor, so until we see some bad things, I'm gonna agree with them.
They have Gators in Minnesota too. How about that?
I love it. I was worried we weren't going to get Gatored, but we did get Gatored. Kevin.
Ellie Schramm asks, what D tackles should Ohio State roll with versus Minnesota?
Which defensive tackles should Ohio State roll with against Minnesota?
Well, I know we will see Antoine Jackson, Haskell Garrett, Tron Vincent, possibly some Ty Hamilton. Jerron Cage is probably not going to play. We don't know anything about that. Just assume, he's been banged up with a shoulder, so I don't know that we should quite count on him yet. So that's 4. Are we going to talk? Are the freshmen going to get in there?
Is Noah Potter a
Nope.
3 tech, or is he a defensive end? We've seen him working at both spots. He may be someone who you see in there. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to be more interested to see if Tyleek Williams makes the travel squad than I am will he play. Because I think even if he is here, I don't expect him really to play. But if he makes the travel squad, that tells me that he's a lot closer to being able to play than if he's not.
And Ryan Day said if you travel, you're going to play.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see, because that's, sometimes you bring some guys over for insurance. Kevin.
Yes, XX Juices Wild 87. Will Tony be getting a steak with ketchup on it? What local cuisine are you guys having?
Tony, congratulations. You have a brand. The question is, will you be having steak or ketchup on your steak?
No, I won't be having ketchup on my steak. I don't eat steak with ketchup. I can tell that to everybody. They don't. Nobody believes me. And sure, have I? Yes. Was it recently? Of course. But I don't do it a lot. We will be tomorrow. The plan is to be at Matt's Bar for Juicy Lucy. We'll try that. It's a heaping gob of hot cheese and a hamburger, and I'm looking forward to that. We will probably do a live something from there as well. Do some Q&A with the three of us, perhaps. Other local fare, maybe. I don't know what they have at Target Field. Maybe ice cream and a baseball helmet. I don't know.
Dare to dream. Yeah. Well, we are going to be at the Twins game tonight. We put information on the Ask the Insiders board at BuckeyeScoop.com. If you do happen to be in the Minnesota area tonight and want to come hang out, we have put some information on where you can come hang out. We'd love to meet you guys. We had fun at the documentary premiere on Monday. We'd love to get to see more of you guys if you are out and around tonight. But yes, I am looking forward to the Juicy Lucy tomorrow. That's one of those things that you ask people, and that's always the first thing everyone mentions. So it sounds a little like a place that I was just going to get directions on how to get away from there.
Yeah.
But it is apparently just a big hamburger, which I'm really looking forward to.
I'm a little concerned about the cheese burn in the mouth, and you got to be careful, right? I mean, yeah. So it's like I don't show up to the post game like gauze on my face. It's like, what happened? Oh, Juicy Lucy. Yeah, been there.
Yeah. Next question.
John Matthew asks, over/under on 3 sacks by JTT and Jack. I'm going over.
For the year, I assume this question
this
is
game.
over under 3.5 sacks for JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer this year. Getting emotional thinking about this. I think I'm going over that. 3.5. Well, I guess the question I assume has to be for each of them individually, not together. Because together, I think that's an easy over. Individually, 3.5 is kind of the barometer for where a 5-star Ohio State defensive end traditionally ends up as a freshman. That was about where Zach Harrison ended up, Chase Young ended up, Nick Bosa ended up. That's just kind of like, if you're there as a freshman, you're probably about to do some really amazing stuff. I expect Jack Sawyer to get there. He's a little further up in the depth chart right now than Tuimoloau is, so if only one of them does it, I'm going to say Sawyer does it. So I'll go over on Sawyer and under on Tuimoloau, but not, Tuimoloau might be 2.5 or 3, not 3.5.
My interpretation of the question is 3 tomorrow, so I'm going to go under.
Yeah, they're not going to get 3 tomorrow. No.
We don't know that. They may. I'm just going to go under. I'm going to be cautious. I'm going to be cautious about it. I'm going to say under on that bet, if that's indeed what the question was about. Next one is...
Texas or busted. How long do you think it'll take for the Buckeyes to adjust to the atmosphere of having fans in the stands?
How long do you think it will take the Buckeyes to adjust to the atmosphere of having fans in the stands? I don't know that the answer is, other than the crowd noise maybe creating a false start or something, I think the answer might be none time. You may have, I think that maybe it's more of a concern that for the Minnesota side of things that, this is not an atmosphere Minnesota necessarily gets to play in a lot. National TV, primetime game, sold out stadium. They haven't seen people, they are going to be amped to all heck. And I think there's a possibility that is more of an issue for Minnesota than it is for Ohio State. Ohio State's been in loud places before. Yes, this is the first time for C.J. Stroud, but I don't, that seems like, they had to call a timeout one time in the first half, and they had a false start or two. That's about the extent to it. I don't think that's going to be like materially change the outcome of the game.
Yeah, it's been a long time since Minnesota's played in a crowd like this. I mean, the crowd against Alabama was, what, 35,000, something like that? So
15, but yes.
Was it 15?
Yes.
I was going to say 20, but I don't know.
It was 15. It was like 3,000 for the Sugar Bowl and
yes.
15,000 for Alabama.
So 15, 50, same. They both have fives in there.
They're both numbers. So
No, I think you're right. Ohio State has played in these games before. Minnesota, you can ask the same question about them. How long will it take Minnesota to get over this crowd? How amped are they going to be? Because you know they're going to be amped. This is the biggest game they've had, any of these guys have played in. So how long does it take them to calm down? Does it take them a quarter? Because if you think Ohio State is going to take some time to get used to this, like how long does it take Minnesota? Like I don't know that Minnesota is going to come right out and be outstanding from the outset. And how many times have we seen it? There's just a feeling out. Like the first quarter is just, it's a little bit odd, and then the game happens.
And that goes back to the question from earlier about, hey, you could see them starting with a couple empty drives at the beginning of the game. Like, this game could be 3-0 with 5 minutes left in the first quarter, and that wouldn't surprise me at all. You're going to have a little bit of a feeling out process. Just, and as far as the crowd goes, as you go back to last year and Ryan Day saying like, well, how are you going to have energy when there's no one here? It's like, well, both teams have to play. Both teams are playing in the same situation. Everyone has to deal with the same thing. Everyone is dealing with the same thing again, where you haven't played in front of a full house in 20 months or whatever it is. So everyone is kind of in that same boat as well, where it's like, okay, this is new for like half of your roster playing in a stadium with actual people in it. So everyone's kind of in the same boat, and it's just which team handles it better. And that's one of those things where I generally don't think it's wise to bet against Ryan Day in terms of preparation for the team and being ready to handle pretty much any kind of situation.
We can take a couple more.
Jordan Kapler asks, if you're Minnesota, what part of OSU's defense do you attack first? Do you go after an unproven secondary or lean on your run game?
Yeah, Jordan wants to know what part of Ohio State's defense should Minnesota go after first? Do you go after the unproven secondary? Do you lean on the run game? Your thoughts?
Do you do the Velociraptor checking the fence thing? Do you try this first and then that, and you see which it is? I think maybe the counterintuitive thing is, hey, the weak spot of the Ohio State defense we know is the secondary. That's what it was last year. So why bother running into the strength of the defense when let's see if that secondary is any better, and if it is, then we could change some things up. But let's at least try to go after the weak spots, or maybe some wide stuff, and see how those linebackers do. Let's maybe avoid the defensive line as much as you can, and just take on that back seven and see what they can do. And that would be through the air, or however they want to do it. Some misdirections, some things like that. Anything but just let's run up the middle and see what happens.
Yeah, don't just run Dave and go, let's see what. Yeah, that's not going to go well. Minnesota's not going to be able to live between the tackles. You're going to have to be able to do a little bit of stuff between the tackles to keep people honest, but you're not going to be able to make your living there. You're right. Run it wide. Try and get the defense stretched out. Maybe someone gets a little aggressive and over pursues. You got some first-time starters at linebacker. You can get guys getting too nosy to get out of your pursuit lanes and create some openings. I think you got to take some shots down the field, and even if it's just a 15-yard out or a quick little slant or something, you may get a corner who's not. We know Seven Banks and Cam Brown they were okay last year. Cam Brown was okay, and then he got hurt. Maybe you get a 15-yard pass interference call. That gives you a good chunk down the field. You've got to kind of got to do a little bit of everything. But I am expecting them to try and use that pass a little bit more than Ohio State. I mean, you've got a veteran quarterback. You've got a line that was. I read Kevin Noon's Tale of the Tape piece today, and he had an interesting stat in there that Minnesota gave up fewer sacks per game than Ohio State did last year, and the whole offensive line is back. So they should be able to pass protect reasonably well for Tanner Morgan. Give him time. Give those receivers 3.5-4 seconds to get open. See what you can do. Maybe you get someone open. Maybe you try and force in a 50-50 ball so you can get a pass interference call. You have to try something like that, because you're not just going to be able to go run between the tackles, run between the tackles, run between the tackles. You cannot 3 yards in a cloud of dust this Ohio State team.
Yeah, throw to run.
Yeah, one more question.
David Eo asks, how many yards do you think Chop or Pork Chop will get?
Okay, David wants to know how many yards Chop or Pork Chop or Mayan Williams will get. Tony, yeah, this was one of your bold predictions for the game, so I know you think he will get at least 82 yards.
That is correct. I'm glad you remembered my bold predictions. It shows you the complete fear you have that I'm going to get all of these correct, and you're already doubting yourself, and you're thinking, I should have gone 82 yards for Mayan Williams instead of going 75 yards for TreVeyon Henderson. And just because I remembered what you predicted, that doesn't mean I have any fear. That just means sometimes funny things stick out to me. Like I can go line for line on Dumb and Dumber, you know, and that's pretty much what your predictions kind of remind me of. But yeah, I think at least 82 yards, and I wouldn't be shocked if he's over 100. But it's going to be tough for guys to get 100 in the first week because they're going to be playing 3 running backs at least.
You're going to be playing 3 running backs. They're going to want to throw. I mean, you've got enough wide receivers. You're going to want to throw the ball. The conditions are such that these are. I mean, it's not perfect conditions, but it's a pretty darn good conditions. If it's not raining, and again, the forecast is like a 20% chance of rain for most of the game, and it's in like the low 70s, mid to high 60s, wind of like 10 miles an hour. Like there's a breeze right now, but it's a pretty gentle breeze. Like this is, if it's like this tomorrow night, and the forecast basically says yes, this is what it's going to be like tomorrow night. Those are pretty good conditions to throw the ball. They're going to throw the ball. So with that and the 3 running backs are going to be splitting carries, I'm pretty confident Mayan Williams gets no more than 81 yards.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up with our score predictions. I will go first so that you don't try to steal mine, or that if you do have a score similar, then I get credit for it. I am going 35-17 Ohio State. Kevin, where are you?
38-14 Ohio State.
So Kevin picks 38-14 Ohio State. That's interesting. I sent my pick into Mark very early in the week. I picked Ohio State 38, Minnesota 24. I think it's a closer game. I think as the week has gone along, I've maybe talked myself into the fact that the 24 might be a little high, but you know, we're all kind of in that same neighborhood. Ohio State's probably not putting up 50-something points. Ohio State's probably not pitching a shutout. You know, this is going to be a competitive game into the second half. I think is probably a pretty good bet, and you know, and then you sort of see if it is a competitive game into the third or fourth quarter. Don't panic. It's fine. Like this is. You're opening with a team that could finish as an 8-9 win team. This is quite possibly a game that you're going to see on the Ohio State's resume page when they're doing those college football playoff shows at the end of the year, and it's like top 25 wins, and Ohio State has 4 of them, and one of them is Minnesota because Minnesota is 23rd in the college football playoff rankings. This is a pretty decent team. Don't get too freaked out if Ohio State does not separate from them immediately and have the game well in hand in the second quarter.
Yeah, by Monday, if Ohio State wins by whatever score, by Monday you're already moving on to Oregon. So don't worry about it. A win is a win is a win. Any win on the road in conference play is a good win. You should be happy with it. So anything else, Tom, before we get out of here?
I think that'll do it. We are very excited. We have a lot of fun pregame show planned for tomorrow. We'll have all sorts of stuff posted on the Insiders board at BuckeyeScoop.com, but we'll also put it out on Twitter, just all the places we put this out today, because we will want to have your insight, your analysis, your questions. Maybe we'll give a mic to Kevin this next time, and we're still figuring this stuff out, and these pre- and post-game shows are going to get a little more elaborate as we go through the season. So we thank you for your patience as we kind of work through some of our new stuff. Kevin joined the staff today, and here we are already doing this, so that's pretty good. And but yeah, it should be a really fun season. I got on the plane this morning to Minnesota, and it was just like, yes, we have waited all year for this. We've waited like 2 years for fans in the stands and an actual college football atmosphere. It is so exciting that it's finally here.
It is. It's nice to be right here next to a football stadium. The band is practicing, and it's back. And so I'm looking forward to it. And gosh, I bet you guys are too, probably.
I think there's a decent chance that people are watching or listening to a college football podcast. They're probably pretty excited about college football. That's my guess.
And I'm looking forward to Saturday as well. But we'll get there when we get there. Let's first focus on Thursday and Ohio State at Minnesota. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. Please check out BuckeyeScoop.com if you're not yet a member. think about becoming one. Also, you can find us at youtube.com/BuckeyeScoop, and we will talk to you all later.